Got a question? Ask Tom on Home Show Radio.
This is Home Show
Hello,
Radio
everybody.
live
It's
on
time.
Facebook.
Wait, not so fast. Hang on, not so fast.
Now,
The-
here's
That's
Tom
it. I'm not
Tynan
going to start the show anymore.
and
You have
Charlie
to.
Moger.
Okay, well, hey, hang on. The nice man has got to finish talking. Okay, now it's our turn here. Where Tom and I had a little miscue there. So the floor director,
You said
the floor,
you were on.
yeah, the floor director
You
said,
you're up.
I
So I
said,
puckered up, okay? All right. Now do I go?
Yes.
Yes.
yes. Hang on a second. I'm ready. Tom, go.
Hello, everybody. We're here in Nova Scotia. No. Anyway, we're here, Home Show Radio, HomeShowRadio.com, Home Show Radio on Sports Radio 610 every Saturday, 9 to 11, Sunday, 9 to 12 on Saturday, 8 to 11 on Sunday. I'm Tom Tynan, I'm the host, and for 33 years, I've been answering your home improvement questions, as well as all the videos and everything done through Moger Media and what we're doing right here. We just have a plethora of things to tell you about and show you, and it's all done here with the magic of YouTube,
And Facebook.
Facebook.
Yep. Yeah. There's a cornucopia
I
of
used to do
care
this on
awaiting you.
television, but nobody watches that anymore.
TV. Wait a minute. You mean pictures through the air without wires? That's never going to catch on. All
All
right.
right, Charlie, what do we got going today?
Well, we're going to cut. We got a bunch of questions today, and we're going to get to those. Our special guest today is going to be Chad Shelton with us from Absolute Comfort Air. Hang on, let's fix him. He's a little high in the frame there. Anyway, Chad Shelton's with us. He'll be answering questions a little later in the show. But what we really do is we want to help you. So if you are among the folks who are dialing in, please go ahead and put your comments in. Even if you just say hi, it'd be good to know you're with us. We love having you as part of the show. And if you got a question, something on your mind, and you don't want to wait till Saturday, we can get you the answer today. You just go ahead and fill out the comments section, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook, and we can help you out live right here. So in the meantime, we have a bunch of questions, Tom, that came from our Ask Tom section at HomeShowRadio.com. So let's answer a couple of those here, first of all. First question comes to us by way of Greg in Sugar Land. He says, I need to replace the roof, and I also put in a radiant barrier in the attic, but do I need to have one done before the other? Does it matter? Is there a correct order that I should be doing this in?
You could probably do it in either order, but if it was me, because the roof to me is the most important thing, and if they find some decking that's rotted or what, then they can go ahead, they're going to replace that, and you might have to go back if you do the radiant barrier prematurely. So I would tell you this, get the roof complete, get it 100%, make sure it's not leaking, you don't have any problems, and then go ahead and put the radiant barrier in, and you won't have to do what I call negative work and go back and have to fix something later. It should be pretty simple at that point.
Fair enough. Now, especially, you're talking about a spray-on or a foil one, right?
A spray-on is what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Usually in homes that are existing, it's easier to have it just sprayed than it is to have foil installed. But at the same time, if you're going to do foil, if you're going to do some of the other alternative products, which is a lot more difficult, I probably wouldn't recommend it. But you still would do that second, because if you do have decking and problems or a little leak, if you hire a bad roofer and not ideal roofing, and you have a leak and it destroys all that work you did with the foil, it's going to be kind of depressing. I don't want you to be depressed.
No, I don't want anybody depressed. We want a happy roof.
No, then we have to send you to another show, Dr. Doolittle.
We call it a Home Show Fixture Pros or something. But
Yeah, you're going to have to get a Danny Milliken psychiatrist.
That's it. Oh, and next thing you know, you're going to be knee deep in microlife. So don't just stop here. So it can help. But how often do you change the deck on the roof, Tom? I mean, you don't change the deck out all the time, do you?
You never change the deck.
Okay.
But if you're getting a new roof and they strip it, and for some reason you had a small breach somewhere and over time it rotted a piece of plywood, that means they're going to pull that old piece of plywood off and put a new piece of plywood down. When you get a contract from a roofer, they will have in there a stipulation that if we find any rotten roof decking, it'll be so many dollars per sheet of plywood or whatever OSB board, whatever they're using. because it's not uncommon to find a little area that might have had some rot, but never really had a bad leak. And so you want to get that fixed before your new roof goes on, obviously. And then you're going to undo. You're not going to replace a little piece. They're going to replace the whole piece of plywood, and then you'll have to go back and redo it. You don't want to go through that.
All right. We are here live on Facebook and YouTube, and we welcome you to send out. You got a question or something, or even if you want to say something nice. Wayne is with us. He says, "Great format."
What do you mean I'm fat?
No.
I'm sorry.
No. He says nice floor mats. No. He liked the
Floor mats? Yeah, they're WeatherTech. You should try them. They work well. They're laser cut.
We're here for you. And Mr. WeatherTech, you'll be getting an invoice from Home Show Radio shortly. So you got a question? Sir, we are here live. If you want to put your questions in, we'd love to talk to you. And even just like Wayne, it's good to have you with us too. All right. Next question comes to us from Broderick in the Heights in the Houston area. He says the small 1/2 inch by 2 inch opening found at the foundation of my home always becomes loaded with ants whenever there's a heavy rain, and then the ants make their way into the house. What's the purpose of these openings? Can I close them, and what do I do to keep the ants from coming in, Tom?
Well, the first thing I'm going to assume, and I hate to assume things, it's a weep hole. It'd be about a 1/2 inch thick, wide, and it's going to be 2 1/4 inches, depending on the size of the brick tall. And those weep holes are important. They're supposed to let the water out. Now, here's the real problem. You want to make an ant-free home. You don't make an ant-free home. You have to call someone to get rid of the ants. Because what they're doing is apparently, and I just suspect the water is building up there, the ants are coming out of the ground, and they're trying to find a dry spot because they don't like floating around in the water any more than anybody else does. So you have an ant problem next to your home. You need to get a professional out when it's not raining. Kill the ant colony. You don't want those ants around. They can bite you. They can cause all kinds of problems. Your pets, they can get in your home. There's types of ants like crazy ants, carpenter ants. Sometimes people think they're ants and they're termites. I mean, you have a lot of different critters out there, but the real problem is getting rid of those. If they're ants, getting rid of the ants. And check your drainage. Make sure it's not puddling out there, because anything in the ground is going to want to come out. Don't fill your weep holes out and up, and don't blame the weep holes, because they actually drain water from behind the brick out to the yard, and that's important that you leave them open.
I remember after Harvey, the only thing worse than filling up your weep holes is what they did when they gutted out those houses, and they pulled all of the skin off from the inside, the moisture barrier, and create all kinds of problems. So as far as I'm concerned, Broderick doesn't have much of a problem. I mean, it could be much worse.
No, he needs to have a pest control company spray. Yeah. That's just the bottom line. Kill the ants. Get rid of them, because ants will those colonies will go everywhere. They're terrible.
You always get an anteater.
They are kind of cute.
Remember that company used to walk around with the anteater? All right. Next question comes to us. Next question comes from Mendy in Bountiful, Utah. You ever notice in Utah they always give names like that, Bountiful, and there's, I think they call Provo Happy Valley. But anyway, Mendy.
Valley, I know that one.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. See, everything's happy in Utah. Anyway. I'll tell you what, it'll be the happiest place on earth this Sunday, because it's my mother's 87th birthday this Sunday, and she's in Sandy, Utah. And I'm married to Sandy. Coincidence?
By the way, tell your mother I actually do work for you. It's not that I just sit here and get money, okay?
It's a true story. When years ago my mother asked me, what does Tom do exactly? I thought about it for a minute, and I said, he answers the phone.
I pretty much do. It just happens to be a microphone, but it's a phone.
And it connected to a powerful transmitter, and there it is. All right, back to Mendy. Here's Mendy's question, Tom. She says, my kitchen cabinets are white, baked on enamel, and I want to refinish them. Can this be done? And if so, what is the process?
To refinish them would be just to repaint them, whether it's a different color or you want to go back white again. The process would be to wipe it down with a deglosser. I think when we talked to Rudy, he used one called Crutter, is one of his favorites now, and so he wipes them down, and they'll just put a white painted enamel finish right over the old one, and let it dry, let it cure. Be careful with it the first week, And that's about all you can do. I would not try to strip that paint off and refinish it. That would be a mess.
Okay. Don't do that. Yeah, I would imagine stripping wouldn't be the way to go. All right.
No.
I would
That's
tell you,
one of those things you start and never finish.
yeah, I had painted cabinets in one of my houses, and with that kind of paint, and about every, I had kids, and so every 5 or 6 years, Rudy'd have to come over and paint them again. So anyway, that's another option. But she's maybe Rudy wants a road trip to Utah. So anyway, okay. Hey, listen, it's time to bring.
That's true. I was just saying Crutter, but yeah, he might.
Yeah, it might, maybe. I mean. All right, so let's get to our first guest. Our guest today, where are we here? Oh, here it is. Go to HomeShowRadio.com. You scroll down. Yeah, I found him. You scroll down to where our Home Show Pros are, and that's where we come across and we find Absolute Comfort Air along with all our other Home Show Pros. This is their page, and as you can see, you can contact them there and learn about them and connect with them and all that. Or you can just sit there a minute because there's Chad Shelton now from Absolute Comfort Air. Chad, welcome to the show. It's good to have you.
Hello, Chad.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Chad's second generation in the air conditioning business, and taking over for your dad and Mark. And last time I heard, Mark was on a vacation somewhere in a sunny climate. Was he down in Mexico?
He was. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. He's back now.
Okay, good. We're going to get him back to work. So, all right, Chad. Here's how the game works, Chad. We got a bunch of questions come in from our listeners at HomeShowRadio.com. We throw them at you, we answer them. And by the way, if you're watching us live today, remember, you can put your questions in just by filling out the comments. We got a bunch of questions that have come in, some more for you that we have already, and we'll get to those as we go along here. But Chad's here to talk air conditioning. And Chad, our first question comes from Cliff, and Cliff is in West Columbia, Texas. He says, I have water dripping from the inside AC vents in my 3-year-old home. How do I fix this?
This could be from the supply boot not sealed correctly, would be the first thing that you would try. Or the outside of the box or the supply boot not being insulated correctly. What happens is that cold air, if it creates a Venturi effect, which pulls the hot air and mixes together, and it creates moisture, which can cause it to drip. Now, it also could be some type of drainage issue, and the water's overflowing into the duct system, or maybe you're running the air conditioning a little bit too cold. Because if you run it, below 70, it can cause the grills and the boxes to sweat as well.
That's not too cold, Chad. That's the way I like to sleep. 68 degrees, baby. I'm telling you.
I put mine at 70 at night. I do myself. So, but during the day. So it just depends. Every house is a little different.
Okay, I got a question for you, Chad. Would it help if he changed to the PVC grills and not the metal?
It does. The plastic grills are different. There's different ones. That definitely is a good solution. We've done that a lot as well. Yes, it is.
Okay, I got another question because you said it was a boot.
Yeah.
Is that right? Is that
Supply
the proper
box.
term? What's that?
Supply box. Supply.
I always
boot.
call it a transition box, but what is the air conditioning term?
Supply boot is the
box
that
behind
goes
the sheetrock.
onto the sheetrock, right? And you seal
All right.
the sheetrock, and the duct goes on top.
Supply
So at the supply
boot.
houses,
I like that. Okay,
call
I'm
it
going to use
supply
that.
boot or supply box. Yeah,
Thank you very much.
no problem.
All right, so I told you we had questions coming in from folks who are watching the show, and I actually have a question for you that we were going to have anyway, but Dan from Copperfield is actually watching and listening to the show. So Dan, thank you. Thanks for being here with us today. Here is Dan's question. He says he had 2 pounds of Freon. By the way, that is a cute baby you've got in your picture there, Dan. He says, I had 2 pounds of Freon added in April and 2 pounds in August, and the AC company cannot find a leak. They recommended a new coil and condenser unit. New coil and condenser. He says the unit is 7 years old and it's a Train. He says, do you think the assumption is correct, or might there be something else other than a new coil and condenser?
With the age of that unit, I would have to find that leak before I told somebody to replace it. That would be very risky, and there's ways to search for leaks, other ways besides a leak detector. Sometimes you have to seal off the units and pressurize them. There's lots of different methods to do it. But you might have to, do a little extra work to find it, but it's a lot lower cost than it is to replace the 7-year-old unit.
7 years old is still almost, I wouldn't call it a baby, but it's still got some life left in it.
Yes.
And if you have, I just want to put my 2 cents in, and it's not the technical side that you're talking about, Chad. If you have an air conditioning technician and company that comes to your home and cannot find a leak and wants to sell you to cover themselves, for the most part, a brand new air conditioning unit, evaporator coil, condensing coil, you're dealing with the wrong people. I'm sorry. I'm just going to stand my ground on that one. Find a different company. It could be Absolute Comfort Air, but whoever you get, they need to find the leak.
Yeah, I got you. Good point.
That's it. I mean,
No,
I had to
true.
get it off my chest.
You're right,
I'm
Tom.
sorry.
Yeah, no, it is exactly right. All right, let's get to our next question here. It comes from Gary in Addicts. He wants to know, what would cause the AC fan not to come on when the thermostat turns on the AC? He says, this happens occasionally. I leave the fan on all the time now to kind of remedy the situation. That doesn't sound like a good idea.
It could be a few different things. Right off the bat, the thermostat could be malfunctioning and not sending a signal to the fan to come on, and it could be intermittent, or also the control board on the furnace itself. Once you send a signal to it from the thermostat, it also will give a signal to the blower fan to come on. It would probably be between those two what I would look at first. That's kind of where I would start.
Chad, I'm going to give you a simple-minded question. And I had a friend once told me he would always tell his clients to do this first before they came out. Could it be that the batteries in the thermostat are getting weak?
It could. It definitely
So
could.
just to change a couple of AA batteries, if that's the case, that's kind of, and I always tell people, just do it anyway. What if it fixes it? It's awesome. What if you pay someone $100 to come out and do it? You're going to be pretty upset. So go ahead and put a few batteries in there. People don't realize that most of the thermostats have batteries, don't they?
They do.
Yep.
All right, we got Dan's answer already. Here's another one. We got Jack is writing into us. He says, a lot of YouTube videos talk about cleaning condenser coils from the inside out while using a condenser coil cleaner, like a regular garden hose and spray away. What could go wrong with something? And also, can I change my own capacitor?
Cleaning the condenser coils yourself, you definitely could do. I mean, being a professional, I would recommend having someone that has done it before. You could damage the condenser coils with the wrong water pressure, and by damaging those coils, it's very difficult to fix. You could also put too much chemical on the coil itself, which can cause it to deteriorate faster. You really need to have a proper mix, and really we take the whole unit apart and clean it inside and outside, both ways. And that's kind of the best way to be 100%, make sure it's done correctly. That's kind of the capacitor side. There's a lot of people that have done that. It is dangerous if you do not know how to turn off the electricity and de-energize the capacitor that's there. As well, I probably would not recommend that as well, but it definitely can be done. A lot of people do that.
I just, as a do-it-yourselfer, sometimes in August, I'll go out with a light hose spray and just spray the outside from the top down, just because it has all the grass and dirt and stuff from the summer. Not to give it a super thorough cleaning, but sometimes that'll help it work a little better when it's 102 degrees outside and the pressure switch will quit popping on you. But that's my personal unit I have. But no, don't tear it all apart. I think that's better for the professionals. But if you want to clean off the outside easily, and I think, Chad, that the other thing is you can have a fin coil and you can have those finger coils. Do they still make those?
Yes, American
Those are the
Standard
ones
is
you
right.
can really destroy with a hard hose, as far as I've been told. So you got to be careful on the type of coil.
All right, let's get our last question here for you. Let's see. Curtis from Humble writes to us, I was wondering how difficult it would be, and maybe a general cost range, which we don't normally do, just so you know, Chad. We don't normally talk prices. But he wants to know how difficult would it be to add an air return to a master bedroom. He says his house was built in the late 80s. It's 3,000 square feet, and the HVAC's in the attic, and the master he wants to fix is down on the first floor.
That just depends on how the house is designed. There has to be some type of attic space for the master bedroom downstairs, or some type of connecting space from the second floor attic to really be able to do that. Otherwise, you're looking to have a lot of structural work done. So it's very hard to say. Now, if there is a connecting attic and it goes down, then it's not too difficult. It definitely can be done, and we do that all the time. It definitely is recommended to have a return air in the master bedroom. You'll see that on most new homes today, but really, without knowing the way the house is built, it's hard to answer that question.
Yeah, I just like to add, you can't have enough return airs. The small ones in the ceilings for bedrooms, like you say, Chad, is really important for the comfort of the people that are in there. I've got 7 air returns throughout my house, and I don't have a big house, about 2,400 square feet, 2-story. But I really found years ago when we were building, it helped a lot to have more than 1 or 2 return airs. And when you're building a new home, I'd recommend you really talk to your AC contractor about distributing the air on the supply side as well as the intake. It makes a much better, more comfortable, and more efficient way to live with air conditioning, as far as I've found out.
I've always said that a perfect house has a supply and a return in each room.
I agree.
Well, we had you put one of those in our house, and it made a real difference in ours. And ours is just like this situation. So, Curtis, it can be done because you guys were able to run one from our attic all the way down to our first floor master. And in fact, this is such a common question we have here that we did a home show video about it, and we're going to show that here in just a minute. Just so you can learn what's involved and what it takes to put them in. And there's also a bonus about a second kind of return that they're going to talk about that Tom's a big fan of. We'll talk about that in a minute here. But we got another question came in from somebody who's watching out there on the great interwebs. He says,
they're watching.
Now this is kind of AC related. He says, but Mike says, and he's got a little picture of JJ there, Dynamite. Is his little emoji that's on his Facebook thing. But anyway, he says, my upstairs bathroom has a sink that is slow draining, and there's no block found in the drain, although the trap, through the trap. But he says, but before I called the plumber, someone said to see if it's my AC drain. Is that even possible? I thought they only drained outside.
No, it is very common these days in the newer homes, and not even that new. It's been happening for a while where they plumb the primary drain line into the trap on a restroom. It could be upstairs, downstairs, just depends on how the house is designed. And usually you can look underneath your sink and you'll see a pipe, usually a black tube or a PVC coming from the side going into that P-trap. And the way I always tell a customer is go look at a couple of other sinks and you'll see that there's not one there, and then you can notice it whenever you see the drain coming out.
Yeah, and I just want to add this, Chad. It is August. It is hot throughout Texas. And this is the month I get all the questions about the backed up drain line. I have been getting them every single weekend for the last 3 weeks for sure.
Yeah, August is the busiest month for drains being clogged.
Yeah. Well, Chad, I can't thank you enough. I know that you're busy too. I know you had to take some time off to be with us here today, and I know that this is a great time of year for not only for you, but I mean obviously we're seeing an extended season almost because of everybody got kind of a late start in getting their systems worked on this year. But thank you so much for taking time with us. We'd love to have you back sometime if you're up for that, if you're a glutton for punishment.
No, thank you guys for having me, and I hope everything goes very well with you.
Chad, nice seeing you again. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, yes, sir. Have a good day.
So Tom, we've got a video here that we produced a fairly while ago about fresh air returns. But when I saw the questions again about the fresh air returns, I figured it'd be a good time to do it. So let's take a look at that.
When you go to change out your AC filter and it's sucked up in there, that automatically tells you right there that you don't have enough return air for your system.
We'll address the dust problem in a bit, but first let's talk about bringing your home into balance.
We do a static pressure test to check to see how much the system is overstressed. The equipment will work extra hard if it doesn't have adequate airflow.
Vents bringing air back to your air conditioner are called return air vents. Installing them helps balance hot and cool areas in your home.
It takes the stress off the unit. It's easier to balance out the house. It just cools more properly.
A less stressed unit and balanced home still needs air. A vent bringing outside air into your system is called a fresh air return.
What that does is that eliminates a lot of your dust issues. It just makes for a healthier home.
Dust is one sign your AC system is starved for air.
It's going to try to find air from everywhere in the house it can. From can lights, from light fixtures, from staircases. It's going to try to find, and that's where you're getting all your dust problems from.
Fresh air returns, bringing outside air directly into your unit, relieves the negative pressure that often causes dust problems.
We will make sure that the system has a return air plenum. That's what the ductwork attaches to coming into the system.
Fresh air returns allow you to control where your AC system gets the air it needs.
It's filtered air. We have a filter that goes through there, it goes through the system and it filters. And it only comes in when the system is operating.
A fresh air return duct is run from the plenum down to the soffit vent.
It's taking the air from the outside, filtering it, and making it healthy air.
And creates positive pressure that's good for your system and good for you.
You want to have a healthy home.
With proper balance and fresh air, you can. For HomeShowRadio.com, I'm Tom Tynan.
So he talked about two kinds of returns there, Tom, and I'm not, maybe you could kind of explain the difference between them.
Well, yeah, it's important. Everybody has air returns in their home. We talked about it on a few of the questions. Putting them in the master bedroom was one of the questions. You said you had just had one added to your room or your house, excuse me. But a fresh air return brings fresh air from the outside, and it really balances the system and makes a better system. It's called controlled infiltration. Infiltration is going to happen with every home. You do not live in an igloo ice chest. That's just the way it is. And you would die if you did within about 5 hours with no fresh air. You need to have some fresh air and air exchanges in a home, which happens naturally with people coming in the front door, back door, people coming in and out, that kind of thing. But infiltration happens when air is lost in the ductwork, because no ductwork is 100% sealed. So the house wants to replace, whether it's 10%, 20%, and wants to replace it. So it'll pressurize and pull air from the outside in through chimneys, through vents over your stove, through dryer vents, through all kinds of different places. It's called infiltration. But if you control it through a fresh air return, which is nothing more than a duct that will replace that 10% or whatever, and you put it on the system, it's going to go into the system through a filter, and it'll get conditioned, so it's cleaned, it's cooled, or it's heated, depending on the time of year, and it finds its way into the house. But it doesn't contribute to the dirt, the dust, the debris, the humidity, as well as unconditioned air, which would be either heat or cold, because it could be winter or summer. So it kind of balances the system, and that's what a fresh air return is. And you can get real fancy and have energy recovery systems, which is a big piece of equipment, and it's been used in commercial buildings for decades. So that's what it's all about, is making a healthier environment.
When they did ours at our house, they went and ran. That was my attic, by the way. They're doing the fresh air return in.
Oh, was it?
And,
okay.
Yeah, they just took a big of duct and put it over to the soffit, like you said, and came in. They put a filter in there, and I'm watching it. I wonder when the last time we checked that filter was. So
it's not going to get that dirty, so it'll be okay.
And now,
it only takes very little bit.
Now the kids have gone to
the ridge vents,
yeah,
so
yeah. The kids have all gone to college, so now I have to do it. So, yeah, like they ever did. Okay. All right. Hey, we got one last question before we go. Our buddy Jimmy John, who's a regular attendee to the show. We love you for being here, buddy. He says, sorry for being late. This is the last time we're putting up with that, buddy. Okay.
I'm always late.
How do you troubleshoot a tripping breaker that has set pattern to isolate the kitchen lights, hallway lights, and living room fan, all on one breaker? If they're all on, it trips. I try to isolate and leave on or off, no matter which one, it doesn't trip. Any suggestions before I call an electrician?
Well, I think you should call an electrician. A tripping breaker under different circumstances means you have an overload. Now, if it was a bunch of lamps and televisions and stuff all on that circuit, I would unplug everything, and then I would just do one at a time. And if one of those appliances trips it, that means the appliance is no good. So you can try to fix the lamp, or you can throw it in the trash and go to Walmart and get another one. But as far as that goes, that's what you can do as far as if it's an appliance. If it's in the system and it's overloading, and he said, hey, I'm turning everything on and it trips the breaker, that means it's overloaded somehow, and that's when an electrician really should come in, because you might need a new breaker. The breaker could be getting old and very sensitive, and so I don't want to tell anybody to go into a breaker box replacing breakers unless you really know what you're doing. And and I could do it, and I don't even like doing it. It scares me just looking at all that stuff. So I would call Right Touch Electrical, but that's up to you. But if it's not a simple appliance, it's unplugged and it stops, then it's time to make a phone call.
Yeah, I don't want Jimmy John messing with that, because he's one of our he watches all the time.
Listener we can get.
We don't want anything happening to you, buddy. Come on, give me a break.
Yes.
So let's see. It's your wife, my wife, my mother. I'm thinking how many other people are watching the show right now.
I'm sorry, my wife has a job. She makes her own dang money.
I'm going to let that one slip by. I'm going to let my bride behind me there.
By Sandra, hello.
Okay, so hey,
right now.
we got Mary. We've got to get out of here because we ran real long last week, and I got a finger wagging from the technical people downstairs about this. But I'm going to squeeze one more question in.
Very popular, Charlie.
Well, what can we say? We appreciate the dozen people who show up every week. Okay.
Okay.
Tell your friends, will you? We'd like to double our numbers and get to 20. But anyway, Mary says our air conditioner, Tom, smells really bad whenever we go from heat to cold, and no one knows what causes it. Somehow, I bet you do.
It's actually it's a thing called the Smelly sock syndrome, and this is something a friend of mine invented, not purposely, but he invented the name. His name was David Debian, and it took off through the whole air conditioning industry. And what happened was, when we got to high efficient air conditioning systems, the evaporator coil runs warm, so it doesn't dehumidify enough, which means it doesn't wash the coil with the water that it takes out of the air because it's running warm. People don't notice it too much when they're in the house, but it lets all the schmutz get on the coil. And then when you go to heat and cold, it has to burn it off, and it gets real smelly. So you might want someone to take a look at it and either change the coil, or there's a coating that can get put on there to help it clean itself better, or get a colder drop across the coil so you pull more humidity out of the air and the water washes the coil better. But it's on the coil, and it's just from dirt that gets on it.
All right, and so it's a matter of cleaning that off. We are actually working. Tom's favorite questions, I want to tell you, Tom's favorite questions are when we get the smelly questions. He loves the smelly questions more than just about any other question. So keep them coming.
Toughest question I get. I've got this smell in my house. What is it? I don't
That's
know.
right.
And on the radio. I don't know.
Mary says thank you. Mary.
I'll try.
Okay, Mary. You're welcome, Mary. Thank you for watching and joining. And tell your friends, so we're not talking to ourselves like I was on my first radio job. We have one more thing we have to cover before we go, and I am duty bound to do this. A couple weeks ago we started talking about this ugly door contest, and they ran it a couple weeks ago. Well, they had so much response, said we're going to do it a second week. And you have got to see, I didn't send you this, so you haven't seen it. And so Tom's in Brownsville, I'm in Houston, so he's not seen this picture, so he's not going to be able to see it when I show it to you. So Tom, just to explain it to you, this looks like a double door, like almost a French door kind of thing. And it has been through the war. And it's going to be retired like a good soldier, and the Ugly Door Contest winner is going to receive from the Door Clearance Center $500 toward a new door. And I bet you they could do a lot of damage with that $500 replacing that bad boy. But it needs to go. And so do we. So we appreciate you watching. If you want to get some questions to Tom, we have a mechanism for that. You can go to HomeShowRadio.com, click on the Ask Tom button right there on the homepage, fill it out, send it in. We'll put a video like this and put it out to the free world. Or we may use your question here on the show. We have something brand new that Tom doesn't even know about that we're going to be introducing next week on this very broadcast. That's going to enable you to send Tom questions in a brand new way. So we'll tell you more about that next week on the show. But Zach has been
get a live band.
Hey,
like Doc Severson.
I like that idea. Hi-oh! Oh no, that's my job. Anyway,
Today is National Radio Day. To all you radio
it
people,
is.
Happy National Radio Day.
I brought my microphone. So
nice. That looks disgusting. You did it like that. Don't do that.
This is why we work in radio, kids. All right. Hey, we'll be back again next week. You want to promote your weekend here, buddy?
Hey, Saturday, I'll be in Charlie's studio Saturday from 9 to noon doing the show like I always do. And on Sunday, I'm going to be at my home in Houston relaxing and doing the show from 8 to 11. And we want you to join us on Sports Radio 610 Saturdays and Sundays.
And we will be back here again live next Thursday at 4 o'clock with your questions. And our guest next week is supposed to be, we're hoping, it's going to be Jim Hardwick from Ideal Roofing. We'll be talking about roofing and gutters and all kinds of stuff with him next week here on the show. So thanks for being with us. I'm looking for the right button here to close the show. I got all these buttons here, and there we go. All right. Now I can look at the camera and say, we'll see you next week.
Got a question? Ask Tom on Home Show Radio. Home Show Radio. Free advice from a pro who knows. Home Show Radio.